This week, subscriber John CW65 asks, can you do a video on when and why Disney stopped using ticket books? The short and sweet answer is that Disney began to phase out ticket books for general admission passes in 1980, and by the middle of 1982, ticket books were fully retired. They mostly did it because, well, that was just the direction the industry was going in by then. There's also an argument to be made that it was ultimately beneficial for them even if it wasn't the direction it was going in. To those who might not be aware, when Disneyland opened in 1955, things weren't the way they are today. You couldn't just buy a ticket, enter the park, ride whatever you wanted as much as you wanted. Your ticket at that time only got you into the park, nothing else. Rides cost extra, and that cost came in the form of tickets. While you could have purchased individual tickets, the more popular option was to buy a book of tickets to use throughout the day. Those tickets were given letter classifications that corresponded to the experience of the ride. A tickets were the smaller and cheaper experiences, while E tickets were the bigger, exciting, and more expensive attractions. It's why today Disney still refers to major attractions as E-ticket experiences. This business model was a staple of the carnivals that came before Disneyland, and more importantly, it was a business model that worked. With the success of Disneyland, it was no big surprise that copycat amusement and theme parks would pop up elsewhere around the country. One of those parks, which opened just a few years later in 1958, was the Pacific Ocean Park in Santa Monica, California. The park, which came to be known as POP, wasn't Disneyland's first competitor, nor its last, but what made the park notable, however, after a disappointing second year of attendance, in an attempt to win over more guests and compete with Disneyland, they switched their attendance model. They went from ticketed attractions to one general admission ticket that granted guests access to all the rides at the park. POP would ultimately fail and close its gates in 1967. However, before that would happen, another park in the US would open and mimic the same general admission business model, but with much more success. In 1961, and at a cost of $3 million, Texas real estate developer Angus G. Wynn opened a theme park in Arlington, Texas. Named after the 6 different nations that at one point or another governed the land that made up the state, Six Flags Over Texas was a success from year one. By 1971, Walt Disney World would open to the public. Much in the same way the company as a whole was clinging to the Walt era of doing things, the Florida park opened with the same A through E tickets that Disneyland used. At that point, Six Flags had just opened their 3rd theme park, and just 90 minutes north of Disneyland, a new park called Magic Mountain would open. It too would sell general admission tickets. Disney stuck with the ticket books, and they were essentially safe too. Their place at the top of the ladder in the realm of the theme parks gave them the security to keep towing the line. But that wouldn't last forever. By 1980, things were looking pretty differently. Disney wasn't failing financially, but they weren't looking too great either. Their box office take was stagnating, 2 oil crises caused issues with Disney World attendance, and most importantly, their competition was picking up pace. While Disney was just starting to work on Epcot, their 3rd ever US theme park, Six Flags had already opened or acquired 6, and they weren't showing any signs of slowing down. So Disney began to test the waters, and in 1980 they introduced passport tickets to their parks, which gave guests access to all rides at a flat rate. At this point, they also began to slowly phase out ticket books. The first step was to remove the A through E classifications so that ticket books were just generalized tickets for attractions. However, by the summer of 1982, those too would be retired. Something else happened in Disney in 1982. Epcot Center opened. For the first time ever, a Disney resort had a second gate, and with that one change, the dynamic of a Disney vacation changed with it. Disney quickly found that, as many would expect, the average length of stay for a family on vacation at Disney World doubled when the number of theme parks doubled. This meant that guests spent more money on food, more money on merchandise, and more money on hotel stays. With that in mind, it became beneficial for guests to spend more time at the parks, and one way to accomplish that was to remove the limitations of how many attractions guests could ride. Ticket books worked for day trips, but Disney vacations were quickly becoming lengthier commitments. While they both played a role, I'd say the outside influence of Six Flags and other theme parks like Universal Studios was the bigger factor here. The 1970s was a decade in which Disney creatively slowed to a near stop, while their competitors only gained more and more speed. In fact, that period of stagnation makes me wonder about whether or not ticket books would have been retired even earlier had Walt still been alive to push the company forward. Either way, ticket books are an essential piece of Disney park history. Beyond just giving us a cool nickname for the newest big rides, they marked a shift in path these parks went down, and they showed us that even the creators of an industry can be influenced by the very industry they created.